Welcome to the Beat Around the Bench podcast about woodworking, good times, and general jackassery, with your hosts, Jess of Jess Build It, Colton of Cold Crate, and Ross of RNC Woodworking and Designs. You can find us all on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. In this week's episode, we get tied up in the deep, dark woods. Colton plays around with Uncle Puddin'. Jess feels blue about his new cabinets, and Ross closes the gap on the cost of whiskey. All of that and more is coming right up on this episode of the Beat Around the Bench podcast. Now for episode 104, Redwood Chili Peppers.
Excellent.
Thank you, sir.
Give it away,
Redwood
give it away,
chili
give it away, give it away now. Can't tell them.
Yeah, no.
I love Red Hot Chili
My dad
Peppers,
used to
man.
have redwood soffits on his house. Redwood soffits.
Really?
Yeah, you could buy. I mean, it wasn't like a thing too much.
Huh.
Because bugs don't eat it in Florida, but it was a terrible idea because it rots. Because it's just like cedar, you know.
Yeah.
So, and you can't paint it for nothing.
Is it really?
It bleeds through everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like
A lot of tannins.
A lot of tannins going on in redwood. That's why bugs don't eat it, because they don't like tannins.
That's right. That's
Are you
right.
ready for the food challenge?
Let's do it.
Breakfast.
Oh.
My favorite meal, if I ever opened a restaurant, it might be a breakfast kind of thing, because I like a country breakfast. I like a lot of different breakfasts. Actually, I like a Mexican breakfast.
Breakfast. So before
I
we
could
jump
eat it
into the
every
food side,
night.
just talking about the economics of a restaurant, breakfast places / brunch places are the most high profit restaurant you can
It's
open.
cheap and quick.
Really?
You have very cheap ingredients with the exception of eggs currently. Everything is a very high profit margin. You can turn and burn on stuff very quickly. It's all short order, and you're only running one shift. You run from like 6 or 7 a.m. to 2 or 3 p.m., and that's it. You're done.
Yeah.
You have really low man hours. You have really low overhead. You're just printing money, especially for brunches. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
There's lines out the door. Pancakes cost a restaurant
Nothing.
literally like 3 to 5 cents per pancake, if that.
Yeah.
And they charge like $14 to $18 for like a full stack.
Yeah.
That's how IHOP can
Nice.
do the unlimited.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Hey, you don't have
Yeah,
to throw out any drunks or anything. Yeah.
No.
But,
This is true. This is true.
I mean,
it's
not
great.
always. Waffle House, I guess, would be an exception to that.
True story.
guess.
Never mind. I'm
love
thinking of
Waffle
exceptions now.
House. I
Yeah.
just love breakfast food. I mean, Brenner is a thing around here. Like I love it. Hash browns and eggs is one of my favorites, but that's not my favorite.
Okay.
And I was just wondering, what's your favorite breakfast? Like, it's an ensemble. So I'll
kick
tell
it
you
off.
mine to get it.
Go ahead.
You kick it off.
Whenever
Yeah,
I went to go see Jess in his shop, he showed me this concoction. I don't remember what you named it, but you go to Waffle House and you
Yes.
basically order half the menu and you put it all in a
No.
pile on the plate, and it's amazing. No, would you like to elaborate, Jess?
I'll tell you what's in it. So it's triple order hash browns all the way, and it's not on the menu anymore. They don't say all the way on the menu anymore, but you get triple order hash browns, get them well done, so they're real crispy on the outside. You get it. I get it double chunked, but they put all the stuff: peppers, onions, jalapenos, mushrooms in it, right? So it's like a goulash hash, right?
Mhm.
And then you get their chili on top and sausage gravy, and then you put 3 eggs on top of that over light, and it is heaven. It's also gas for like about 2 days, but it is good. And it's only like $10. It's super cheap. So every time I
It's a
get it, people
hangover
look at it and go,
cure. I
what
will
is
say
that? It is very good. Yeah, you put hot sauce all over it.
Did you already have a name for it?
No, it's just a triple order.
I think I'm gonna call it Jess's
All the
Mess.
Yeah,
The
Jess's
Jess
mess.
mess.
Yeah, people
We'll-
just
we'll-
like
we'll workshop that a
slop
little
on a
bit.
plate. They call it slop on a plate. The waitresses do. So
Yeah.
Anyway,
They had something similar to that at the Dixie Chicken famous bar in College Station. They just call it the stuff. That was more like
it's
white
good though,
gravy
isn't it?
focused,
Though
though.
it is
Yeah.
good. Like you eat about half of it, and I mean it's so cheap there. And they're like, "You want any meat?" And I was like, "Have you seen this?" Like, no, I don't need any other sausage or anything else like that. My favorite breakfast is it's kind of a toss up. Eggs Benedict done really well, where it actually is a poached egg and not like how they screw it up every time.
Mhm.
But Eggs Benedict, with like, new potatoes, sausage, bacon, all that stuff, or country fried steak and like biscuits and gravy. A really good country fried steak, like a double piece with a really good handmade, that peppery sausage gravy. I don't like the ham gravy, sausage gravy, and like a biscuit, and then like some potatoes, like new potatoes with eggs. Oh, it's so good. Every time I can get it, I never get tired of it.
So I got to break up my classification. Like my go-to, like almost daily breakfast is a breakfast sandwich of some kind. But
Okay.
if I have my option, I would do like a Southern style, like almost like low country style. So like Southern Carolina or South Carolina buttermilk biscuit
Yeah.
with pimento cheese on there,
Oh.
and then eggs, sausage, and jalapeno cheddar as well.
Yeah.
And that is a perfect like breakfast sandwich. But I gotta say,
Where are you getting that at? I've never had it with pimento ever.
Dude,
Sounds good.
wherever I want.
Keep it in your bag.
Yeah, exactly. But I gotta admit, recently as I've been going, because my wife and I, we do Mexican food every Monday because we're superstitious. It's a whole story. But either way, we call it Mexican Monday. We've only missed it 3 times since we've met each other in 2010. And those 3 weeks that we missed it were god awful. So we always have Mexican food on Mondays. And recently,
it's like the dirty socks like that they wear all season. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that same kind of thing. Like if they wash them, then the season's going to be done.
Right.
Yeah,
like
you wash away the good luck.
Do it. Everybody does. Okay.
My wife was on the course for the Olympics years ago, and so she has a lot of like sports superstitions. So anyway, but
it's fun.
I recently started ordering some of the breakfast foods there for dinner, and it's like huevos rancheros or huevos tacos. Like, and I have found that the breakfast burrito, it's huevos and chorizo and hash browns and refried beans and peppers and onions and pico and Chihuahua cheese, and then you slather it in the verde salsa. Oh my God, I could have that thing almost daily.
So how do they? I have a question because we're gonna get into this for a second. So how do they make their huevos rancheros?
So theirs is a combination of, let's see, onions, peppers, jalapenos, pico on the griddle. Then they throw the eggs on top of it, and I asked for the chorizo as well. And usually the ranchero, it just comes on the plate, and they bring the tortillas on the side. And so they put the ranchero sauce, which is kind of like a mole, but not as thick.
Right.
But I actually prefer it in the burrito, sans the ranchero sauce.
So the guy that I worked with when I first started doing all this, he was from Guanajuato. I mean, he actually worked in a kitchen when he was for a good part of his life in Mexico. And he said, listen, the real huevos rancheros is this, because it's like tacos over there. They don't like do that Tex-Mex that we do. It's like
it's cilantro and onion and limes. And
that's it. Right.
Yeah, it's not covered in cheese. Yeah.
And no flour tortillas. It's corn.
Yeah.
So he said, and he made it for me one time. I never had it. He said, how about I make you breakfast one morning? Because I was picking him up. And it took him a minute. And I said, he made me 4. And I said, I'll take 4 more right now. That is absolutely off the chain. So very simple. He charred on like open burner some corn tortillas. That refried beans that he had kind of pepped up with a little bit more seasoning and oil. I probably put lard in them. Yeah. And then the refried beans on top of that. Then it was the over easy egg, a very overlight egg. And then he had made his own tomatillo sauce with the jalapenos he had charred and all that. That's it. That was it. No cilantro, no nothing. And I could eat that. And I made it for my wife once. And then my mom made breakfast burritos, which to this day are still my favorite. And it's potatoes O'Brien, sausage chopped up, scrambled eggs, and then some jalapenos in there, and then cheese. And she would just make like 2 or 3 bags of it and put it in the fridge and scoop it out for us in the morning and put it on a tortilla, roll it up in a paper towel and heat it up in the microwave. Yeah. And I ate that for years, and it's so good.
I
So
will.
good.
I would like to give honorable mention to 2 other items. One of which is just your classic biscuits and gravy. When you get a really good sausage gravy and a good biscuit, there's nothing like it. And number 2, let's not forget pigs in a blanket. Whoever decided to wrap
It's
up
been a minute.
sausage links in pancakes and put the syrup on top, a little bit of powdered sugar,
Sweet and
it's
salt.
delicious.
Sweet and salt is really, really good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. It's very bad for you, but it's very
Absolutely.
good. Yeah, it's
So,
like
you
a
know,
sugar
pigs in a
spike
blanket,
with
it,
sugar
like,
spike with
brings
calories.
me back. Because I
Yeah.
guess at a certain age, you start calling them kolaches. And
Yeah,
pigs in a blanket so much more fun.
it is.
Ashley does the regular ones, the Nathan's pigs in a blanket every
Mhm.
Christmas. That's when we get them because they have them at Sam's. Yeah,
Huh. Speaking of, so your wife is from New Jersey, right?
she's very much from New Jersey.
I
Yeah.
lived in Hoboken, New Jersey for a year, and they had a restaurant in Hoboken where you could go in and order what they called the hangover cure. And it was literally, they would make essentially like a breakfast pizza, but it was the pizza dough underneath wrapped into like a calzone, right? And
Okay.
inside you have all the sidewalk fries, so like the big chunky
Yeah.
hash browns. It's not shredded; it's the big chunks. You have sausage gravy on top. You have peppers, onions. You have slices of American cheese because that's how they do it in Jersey.
Yes, they do.
And then they cover the entire thing in sausage gravy as well.
Oh my God.
And yeah, and then they bring you toast on the side.
I think I've
and-
seen that on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives.
Dude,
I think.
you finish half of it, you're like, I'm done for the day.
So I'm assuming this place is like open 24 hours and people are coming in there at like
Yeah.
off a night shift or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'd love it. It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
if
you
you're
have-
ever
yeah.
in Hoboken, it's on Washington on the main strip. I'll find it for you next time I'm up there.
Sounds good. I would love
So-
to. I wonder. My wife is from, and I don't know the geography. So my wife is from like southeast Jersey,
Yeah.
kind of close to Philly.
Yeah.
So
It's a
where's
very
Hoboken?
different feel. Hoboken is literally across the river from Manhattan.
Okay. Yeah. Way up there. Okay.
Yeah. So,
Gotcha.
all right, let's get to some woodworking stuff.
Let's do it.
Right
So-
on.
Colton, you sound like you are ready to go.
I'm chomping on the
He-
bit, brother.
Get after it, sir.
He's not a woodworker this week. He's a auto body mechanic.
I'm a
Yeah.
little bit of everything. But first, I'm actually going to follow up on what we ended last episode on. And my Uncle Puddin built a sawmill. And
Yes.
it's pretty stinking impressive.
Did he do it with a ladder?
No, it's
I've
all
seen people
welded
do it.
together. Like
Oh,
it
Oh.
is solid.
Sawmill. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it is solid. Right. So paint the picture when you're heading over to Southeast Texas where they're at, like at a very certain point, you cross the pine curtain, right? And there's just pine
Yes.
trees, like, super tall, like thick, can't even see through all of it. Like, yeah, just a ton of pine trees, pine curtain. And then you go down this little windy dirt road. Like, if you hear a banjo, don't turn around. Like,
or bend over.
it's it's in the sticks, right? And then we get to his place, and yeah, he's all excited. He's doing like a river table countertop, right?
Okay.
And this man has scoured YouTube, and I was actually really impressed with all the little stuff like that he knew. But you know, I helped him calculate how much resin he would
Epoxy.
need.
Yeah.
Yeah, epoxy resin.
What-
yeah, and like
what colors?
all the
What
stuff
color
he-
is he going with for the river part of it?
So he's going with like it's a little darker than in Caribbean blue, but like a shade of blue, a lighter shade of blue.
Cool.
And he was really excited about so these slabs he has, I think they're really old walnut slabs, and he cut them on his own mill and everything.
Ooh.
And like for
How
like the
wide are
cracks
they?
in it, each board is cut down to maybe 12 inches, 10 to 12. But
Okay.
he
That's
has them
nice.
facing in like a river table, right?
Okay, gotcha. That's bad.
and
Yeah. That's awesome.
yeah, and he was filling the cracks with like some glow in the dark stuff. Which, when he asked me for my opinion on it, I was like, I don't want my counter to glow in the dark, but you do you, bud.
I
And
kinda
he had like
it.
some glitter and stuff, and was like, go to town. And he already had his form built, and I just gave him some tips from how I had messed up in the past, and he had all the Tyvek tape, and but yeah, so this sawmill, it started off with him going to Arkansas to buy what he thought was a deal on a sawmill. Ends up the thing, which that sawmill was homemade, and it didn't really work. It probably never actually worked, he doesn't think. And so it got him on this whole tirade. And what, you can go get a sawmill for what, $3,000-$4,000, right?
Yeah, probably.
Not even that.
I
You can
think-
get one. You can get one even cheaper off Harbor Freight for like $2,000.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. And in hindsight, he's laughing at himself. But he's probably like, I think he included his time in this, but probably spent about $15,000 on this, making the sawmill. But I don't know. It's been like his little passion project. Not little, but it's been his passion project. And
how large is it?
Oh, it's probably 10 foot long. It has a electric hoist where it'll raise it up. It's a giant bandsaw. Wide.
How wide of a tree can he cut?
I'm gonna say 30, maybe north of that. 30 inches wide, I think.
That's a big tree.
It's pretty solid, yeah. And like I think 30, yeah. But yeah, giant blade on it, and he kept showing me all these like little welding attachments he made for it. Like he had to figure out a way to hoist it where it hoists from both sides, and like all this stuff. And I was like, Puddin', you've been busy, man. It's been getting after it. But yeah, so that was super cool. I think I have some pictures of it. I'll have to send you guys. But yeah, Puddin's been busy on it. What was it? Oh yeah, so back on the painting.
You use it?
Yeah, dude. I was like, Puddin', I need some wood stat. Oh yeah, so he lives on Lake Sam Rayburn, right? And like Sam Rayburn, when you get up into the sticks, it has gators and it gets pretty swampy. But whenever the water was down last, it's illegal. But he went and pulled out a whole bunch of cypress trees that had been down there forever. Ooh. And he's cutting those up. And
do they stink to high heaven?
Probably.
Yeah, yeah. He mentioned that he was like started smelling. He thought something was burning on his saw or something.
Yeah.
But even when I had that sunken cypress slab, and when I cut it for the waterfall, it smelled kind of like an armpit or like a gym.
Yeah.
Like yeah. But yes, it did stink. But yeah, so he's doing that. He's doing it all right. Like he's laying it out in his shop, letting it air dry for about a year. And which I was telling him on sticker slabs, he may need some more than that. But I should have pointed him towards a hygrometer. But yeah, he's all into it.
Make sure he straps it all down to something because it'll just bow up. You know what I mean? If you strap it down, it'll kind of hold it where it's supposed to go while it dries.
I think he's counting on the weight of all the boards above it to do it.
Either way, you still got to strap them together.
Yeah, you got to strap it down to even if you just put some bolts on the floor and straps it down with some ratchets because it will warp.
If he has a whole lot of weight to it, he can strap them to each other just with ratchet straps all the way around.
You could do that.
Just make sure that it's like one contiguous feel. So if they twist, they all have to twist together. And they're fighting against each other. If you reverse the grain pattern on each one,
right?
When you're laying them on
it was one big smile of a bow.
Correct. Yeah, they'll all bow the same way. So you just go back and forth and work. That's a good idea, Ross.
That makes sense. I need to see. Yeah, I'll relay that to Puddin and see if that comes about. But yeah, so on the same side of family. So this is all Crystal's family. Same side. Her dad, her stepdad, Larry. Larry made a surprise visit.
He did
one episode. Long time ago. But yeah, so Larry has a paint and body shop over there. And I'm finally getting my catalytic converters fixed on my truck. And
all right.
I'm going, getting ready for...
I was just thinking, I was like, he's painting his camper. He's painting his camper, but he got his cats fixed. Perfect.
Now, getting the cats fixed... Yeah, mostly just to get ready for Charlotte. You know, I don't want to be driving around with a loud truck with her in it.
I got you.
And
How many miles you got on that truck?
109.
Okay, not bad.
Oh,
Not bad.
yeah. But yeah, where am I at?
You were going to go paint with Larry.
So yeah, we're like throwing in like, yeah, let's just paint the camper show while we're at it, right? That's always been on I need to go pick a weekend and do this, you know? And I got to be there for the whole process, right?
Yeah.
And it was really cool. And it's very similar. Like it's weird how similar it is to like furniture restoration, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like say you have a dented hood of a F-150, right? You repair the dent, which he has all sorts of different methods. Like, however, yeah, there's some differences, but look, you make the repair, you sand it down pretty good, like scuff it, like even to like there's a cleaning agent, and then the different materials. Like you're still looking out for fish eyes, and like the speed and the way you spray. His guns were very similar too. And it all just really reminded me of furniture restoration. And in a sense, it almost seems easier because you're not trying to stain the metal of a hood of a truck to show its wood grain, right? You're just covering it with paint. And and it hasn't
the only
been
hard part for them
absorbing Old English for years.
Yeah, the hard part for them though is if you have like UV wear across the entire, let's say it's a hood, and then you have to try and match the part that you're painting to match the rest of the UV wear. That's interesting, but you're right. It's a lot easier than trying to match 100-year-old stain.
Yeah. Well, I was more of saying like you can just Bondo it, right? Or you build it up in Bondo, all that, and you're not painting in grain or whatever. It is more difficult in lots of aspects, but it was extremely similar, like treating like a car part, like a piece of wood, like a piece of furniture, like an antique. And I thought it was really interesting, but yeah, I could do paint and body. I feel like
you think the thing with paint and body is there's a lot of hand sanding. Like you can't burn through the edges. Like it's a lot of rasps and hand sanding and stuff. It's very detailed, but people take such pride in that. You make a lot of money if you learn how to do it. Like a paint job on a car can cost. I was watching. You guys ever watch that show, Grease Monkey Garage or whatever?
Yeah, Gas Monkey Garage.
Gas Monkey. And I remember they did it was like a new car, but it had an old body on it, and it was for Sonic. Sonic has a patented red color. Their red button is a patented red color. So they had Valspar, who also makes auto body paint, make it. The paint costs $100,000 for the car. $100,000. And I'm just like, what is going on? Because it was like they had to pay Valspar to formulate it and all this other stuff. So the paint job costs $100,000. I said, man, that's insane. But car paint jobs are expensive.
Yeah.
Somebody's always banging the car up.
They had just knocked out a $30,000 paint job. I think he did it in one or 2 weeks. I think 1 week. And
30 grand's not bad for a week.
Yeah, right. And the guy had a giant F-250, and which granted it did have some decent hail damage, like some pretty good. They were fixing the roof of it well, but the guy made the right call and was like, "Go nuts on it, like I trust you," kind of thing. Which as a woodworker, that's my favorite thing to hear.
Oh,
like I put so much more heart into every piece, whatever do stuff I normally wouldn't do. Yeah, when I hear that, but he did like parts of it were like the rhino liner, and then like he did like a blend and like went all out on it. I saw pictures of it. It was pretty cool, but yeah, it was really neat getting over there and seeing the similarities between a paint and body shop and like a furniture repair shop.
And just out of curiosity, once he finished painting your topper, the cab or the camper shell for your truck, did it match?
We haven't put it on yet, but it's my truck's a pretty straight up black. right? There's no like metallics or anything in
But
it.
is there fading to your truck? Is it going to look like a brand new painted piece on a truck that's slightly faded now?
It may.
Okay.
You can take some polishing compound and rubbing compound and some really good wax and buff your truck out, and it'll look brand new again. It'll take some time.
My truck
but you
isn't
can
like
do it.
super faded.
I think what you should do,
2016,
just to make
but-
it seem pretty badass, as long as it's in the paint booth, paint some flames on it, man.
Yes, definitely flames. Definitely flames.
Yeah, get the airbrush out.
Mm-hmm.
No, that'd be
Go
fun.
nuts.
No,
Yeah.
like my truck's gonna be like a big black tank. Like I'm picturing it like that, like the wheels are blacked out, or the wheels are black, the rims.
It's going to look like
Everything's
the
black. Only thing
Batmobile.
that's chrome is the front bumper and the back bumper. And
Gotcha.
he was talking to me about like I kind of want to rip off all the labels now, like where it says like Tundra on the door and like the
Mhm.
5.7 and like the TSS package, and just like blank it out.
Uh-huh.
And but no, I'm pretty excited. After that, I want to get a roof rack, and I was thinking of like kind of fabricating it myself and trying my best to make it not look like super redneck. Right?
Mhm.
I'd like for it to go from the cab to the back for when I'm hauling over 6 foot boards, right?
Yeah,
And
those are nice.
just kinda
They make some
set
nice
them on
aluminum
top.
ones though. Then you don't have to worry about it rusting. No, they
Mhm.
make some
Yeah.
really nice ones. I like go back and forth about that because I would love to have a nice big roof rack, place to like hang cords and ladders and all that stuff. But I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes a lot of noise when you're driving.
Sure does. Can't go through a car
Oh,
wash
the-
with that.
No.
The roof rack, yeah. Well, I already don't go through car washes like the camper shell. I've been fighting it on waterproofness, which I think I got it pretty waterproof, but yeah, I don't really go through car washes anyways.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. How did the cabinets turn out, man?
Oh, dude, the cabinets were great. Well, the right side went awesome. Like I hung them all myself and everything. The right side. So I did like a long, like the 40-inch cabinet. So it's a corner, right? And they're kind of equal sides on each side. And so
Mhm.
the long side, I did a blind corner, right?
Sure.
So one is 40 inches long,
Mhm.
43. And then the other is like 30, right? And so it's
Okay.
4 15-inch doors on each side. Right.
Okay.
Or like total. Yeah. Four, yeah, per side. And then you repeat it for the other side. And so those blind corner hinges are not super adjustable. Like the other hinges, like this, they're the European soft close. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Like you can adjust like XYZ, like in every direction.
Absolutely.
Like you don't even have to really be that accurate when you're putting them on. I'm kind of joking, but they're super adjustable. The blind corner ones did not have as much adjustment, and on those also, I don't have a lot of swing room. But so the first side we put on, I'm like, okay, Chris was in the kitchen with me. I was like, here we go, and I put them together, and they slowly close perfect together. And I was like, oh, I'm a bad MFer, like this is awesome. And then the second one, we had to pull the skinnier cabinet out a 1/4 inch to go around some tile. And
Mhm.
so it does not open. Or like the one blind corner door does not have enough to open. And so there's a couple ways to go about it, right? Like one is I pull the short cabinet down, cut that tile. It's the tiles from the backsplash, which is to the left of this cabinet. And so I'd only be cutting out
Okay.
like top right square out of that tile, right? And then put it back, and then hopefully that's enough space. It should be for it to open and close right? Because we're dealing with not very even walls. But another option I was thinking, which would involve taking cabinets down, is I basically from the side that's hitting the cabinet, that's coming out too far,
Yeah.
I pull that hinge to like out a little bit, and I cut that door. I cut like an inch off of that door, maybe half an inch, right? And so I
think you're
shortened
better
the width
off
of it from
cutting.
the outside.
Well, generally with cabinets, like if you have a blind corner cabinet, let's say, and you have frameless cabinets, right? It's just the
Right.
carcass, and then it's edge banded on the front, and then so it's frameless, which are great. Those are like really good use of the space, right? You can get in them and everything. You still have to put. So, for instance, you said, let's say your cabinet was 42 inches, which means you have 30 inches exposed and 12 inches behind the other set of cabinets, right? Or unless you
Right.
made them 11 and a quarter or whatever. You would have a stile that goes up and down inside that cabinet at between somewhere at, well, actually, to make insulation easy, you would make it a wide one, like a 1x4 almost, a 10 or a 1x3. And it would go from about 11 inches to, it would bump over a little bit. You'd see like a bit of whatever color white there, and then you'd make a little return the depth that you need for that hinge plate to attach to, and then you would attach your door to that so that it moves that door away from the other door an inch, 3/4 of an inch. And so like on a frame, on one that does have face frames, on a blind corner cabinet, they give you like a 6-inch style, and it's a smaller door, so that if you need to pull it out away from the wall some, you can, or if you want to push it all the way tight, you can. And it just increases that little style and what's visible there. And that's how they handle that. They do that also with the base blind quarter cabinets if you don't want to use like a lazy Susan or whatever. And there's like a 6-inch style, so you've got 6 inches to play with until the door hits, because some people pull it away from the wall because the math doesn't quite work out in the room where they need it to be, so you can pull it away from the wall, and the other cabinet's just landed into that style that's vertical. So that's what I would do, is if you could just add a little piece, you would still have to cut the door down a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then paint that edge, repaint that edge.
Right. Because one aspect to that is the larger cabinet. So on the side that doesn't have another cabinet on it, it's perfectly flush to a window, right? And so also for that door, I can't move that door out. I want that door to be flush as well.
Have you tried going skeet? Because it does go
to
from
the
the
wall?
window
To the wall. Yeah.
Till
the sweat drips down the walls.
It gets pretty sweaty. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, dripping.
In the kitchen. Yeah.
I used to make cabinets like that because I didn't want to deal with the face frames, and we didn't have a domino. Like, I didn't have things in my old shop. And so all of my cabinets I made frameless, and I effing hated it because you go to put them together and something's not right. And like, there is like no room for error at all, especially in the corners. For God's sakes, bless your heart, doing that and not like doing cabinets all the time, because that stuff is hard. It's really hard, and there's all kinds of different hinges and stuff. But that's my suggestion to you. Then you can put your European hinges on that other door, but you just need to get it away. You just need to get the edge of that door away from the inside corner just a little bit, even if it's a half inch. Just get it away so that when
that's what I was saying
by
hit. Cutting the door is the only way to gain more space at this point.
Well, what are you going to mount the hinge to? I don't know what a blind cabinet hinge is. I guess I don't know what that is. Is it like a lazy Susan?
It's like where?
No, they're just hinges designed by Stevie Wonder.
Basically, the hinge is in line with the door when it's closed.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Right. So,
understand.
a normal hinge, when the door is closed, it's 90 degrees. This is in line.
Yeah. So, like on what is it? Like a lazy Susan cabinet. It's got the two doors. It's got that one hinge that like kind of goes out and opens way.
Correct.
Open.
Yeah,
so
and there's a hinge in between two doors. Yeah. So if that's actually leads into what I would do if I were to do this project again. I would go with the lazy Susan door, or like that 90-degree lazy Susan door, and because that takes care of all my corner problems, right? Like
I would have just ran it and had empty space. If you're selling it, like bump those two things together, put a little filler, and that's it. Like there'd just be, you can stick your hand up there, forget about because nobody likes reaching. I guess you store your secret stuff back in the back of a blind cabinet.
Oh,
But
I get what you're saying.
just leave it dead space. There's 2 30-inch cabinets and put them together. Leave a little, put your little filler in there so they're not quite touching, and that's it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't rent it that close to the window either, but that's just
if I were to go back, I'd do the lazy Susan cabinet because the program I was using, which is from Easel or like from Inventables, and Easel, I guess, that cabinet maker software drew up one of those, and I was playing with that idea. However, it did make it hard to like make all the doors even, right? So like if I did do that blind Susan cabinet, I would then have to have like a single door cabinet on each side of it.
Does that software show you how to make a corner cabinet? One that's like at a 45 that comes out? Does it have that? Because they make them where it's like it goes like this, it goes like that, and then the front.
I don't think that was one of the options.
It's a really big cabinet.
Colton, did you ever think about making doors that were flush inside with where the face frame would be?
Inset
doors.
Inset.
Because that would also negate all of your problems.
Right. The face frame, inside the face frame, it would be an inch and a half over.
Yeah.
It's all right.
I think we wanted that full overlay style, but they look that would have worked because the lower cabinets are like it's like a full face frame.
So let me ask this: does it look good enough that if somebody came through for a showing at your house, they'd be like, "Great, there's cabinets in here."
I mean, what are the chances with somebody that buys your house that's going to redo the whole kitchen anyway?
Yeah.
So, we talked about spraying last week. That's right. I remember where we left off now. So that Graco Nova 395 paint sprayer, it took me half a day to figure it out. Like I replaced a pump on it. Luckily, the guy who gave it to my neighbor had an extra pump with it. I replaced the pump on it and the thing sprays like a dream.
It's the greatest thing ever for latex.
I used a ton of paint, like figuring it out. I used a whole gallon just figuring out 8 doors. But once you get it and you're rolling, it's seconds, and that thing is sprayed and it's amazing.
2 swipes, it's done. Yeah. It's perfect. You could spray semi-gloss and it looks like it's high gloss. It's amazing. It's amazing.
That's what I used when I was spraying all those pieces that ended up being at the event in Deer Valley, Utah.
It just there's downsides, but the downsides compared to any other way of doing it aren't enough. The downsides are like Ross likes to use that 5 tip because it goes to it well because it's bigger, but it wastes so much paint.
Yeah.
I mean, you're wasting 30 to 40% probably of paint, probably more than that. It's just going in the air. Yeah, because most of it's spraying past it, but and then it's a pain to clean. It's a pain to clean.
It's not as bad to clean. It's actually worse to like get it all set up and how much paint you use just priming the thing. Like by the time you think of how much paint is in the hose, you probably have a third of a can of paint just in the various tubes of the system. But you can spray a lot of it back in. Yeah, well, you can spray a lot of it back into the can.
I will give you guys a nugget for those things, and you will say, you might even have one already, but because the hose is actually kind of part of the pressure system, right? Because it's got so much pressure inside that hose. I've heard up to 1,600 PSI inside those hoses. Yeah. Because it's basically compressing a liquid, and it's aerosolizing through that little hole because it's changing the... Anyway, it's hard to handle it because you can't like twist it. Get you a swivel air thing made for paint sprayers. Well, it's not air. A swivel thing for made like Graco makes one, and it will swivel and like a ball. But it's made for that pressure. They're like $20, and it will change your world. Because if you've ever had to paint a whole house with one, and you're trying to like get that stinking hose to twist, and it's like hurts your arm to do it. You get a swivel, you can change it out just like you would change out an air nozzle. And
that's a good nugget.
It's glory for $20. It's like the greatest thing ever.
Hey, another nugget that y'all I mean, I used it. So I did the method. I was spraying outside. I was worried about too much heat, like letting it not settle
Mhm.
enough, right? And so I would go into the shop, grab a door, come out, spray it. Then I would take my tips and put them in water, put them in a cup of water, just like you
Mhm.
said, and then take that door inside, pull another one out, take that tip. Yeah.
You
Only
can't.
problem with that method though is I wasted a lot of paint.
That
Like
would
when I
kind of
put the new
dribble
tip
out.
on. No. I wasted it most like I want to do a test spray, make sure the nozzle's clear, and just like a quick spurt, but
Mhm.
a decent amount of paint's coming out in that spurt. So that means I do 8 test sprays like per coat of paint, and that's the only downside. However, it worked out very well.
You can put
And
the whole
The whole
sprayer
gun.
handle gun. You can
The
put it
whole
in just a bucket of
five
water.
5 gallon
I
bucket. You
was
just
sitting
have to
there
get.
wondering if that's what y'all
Yeah.
meant. Like at the very end, I
Yeah.
had that thought. I
Yeah,
was like,
no,
maybe they
don't
meant
take
do
the.
that, not just taking the tip out.
No, well,
Yeah.
there's a couple things. You don't have to take the tip. If taking the tip in and out's a bad idea because it'll start to wear that metal because it's a metal like seal
Yeah,
on it. You know what I mean? You got hardened metal
that's
against softer
fair.
metal. That's how it's sealing. So you don't want to do that. You can turn that tip sideways. So, you can turn it in reverse. So it spits out a
Mhm.
stream to like clear it. And you can turn it so it's spraying. But if you turn it halfway, then the tip isn't exposed anymore to the air.
Oh yeah,
And you can get away with that for about 5 or 10 minutes and it shouldn't dry on you. And you can literally just turn it back to spray and go to spraying. But yeah, I do what he does. I just throw it in a 5 gallon bucket of water and I never
Mhm.
have to worry about it and it stays clear the whole time. But
Yep.
you do have to blow it off because you'll get drips on things.
Yeah.
man. The use of water with a sprayer is so foreign, right? Because like whenever with our lacquer sprayer, water
Right.
is the devil, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't want water anywhere near that machine. You don't even clean it with water. Like water
Right.
is rust and the devil. And then that machine, it's
Yeah.
everything's
Everything's
wet.
aluminum. I
And
mean, the rivets are usually steel. That's the only thing that rusts on mine.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah, but it was really
well,
cool getting to use that machine.
very
Nice.
good.
And
Jess, what's going on in
like
your world,
yeah.
man? Oh, sorry, Colton.
Oh,
Got
you're
anything
good.
else,
I
Colton?
was gonna say is like once I move, I'm definitely gonna buy one of these. So
Nice.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. I don't know. We have one at the shop, and it's great. We use it. That we bought. We got rid of those Wagners,
Mhm.
and because the handle broke. Actually, the motor was fine. It was the handle. There's a plastic valve in those handles that goes out, and
Huh.
when you use it commercially, they don't warranty it. And
No.
then I registered it under a business email, and they're like, "Is this a business?" I was like, "Nope, that's just my email." And they took one of them back because I had Pro Extra, but the other one was expired. So, anyway, yeah. So we are doing a kitchen this week in a condo. It's on the second floor. It is a metal stud building and concrete building. So,
Okay.
um, I was concerned about the metal studs,
Yep.
but they do them on odd centers. For anybody that ever works with metal studs, they do them on really odd centers. I don't know why.
It's like 24, right?
Sometimes it's 20. Don't
Hmm.
ask me. So I had no problems with it. So those Spax cabinet screws, the
Yeah.
ones that are kind of skinny, which
Yeah.
are fantastic, and they're a T15, and they have like a washer head,
Mhm.
they work just fine. On light
Wow.
gauge studs, of course. You just can't, like, anytime. There's a little tidbit as well when you're screwing into metal studs, and I knew this from doing stucco and lath over metal buildings. You can't keep screwing it. It will, you hear it go, and
Yeah.
it'll break the thread it'll remount the metal. So you just screw it till it's tight and stop, and it ain't going anywhere. I mean, the drywall doesn't fall down. That's what they use. So,
Nice.
right on.
yeah.
I assume
So
it's
we hung
easier to
them.
find metal studs. Like
It is.
with a stud
Well, it was
finder.
fresh drywall too, so I got my little magnet thing. That was glorious. But I love and hate metal studs because a metal stud building, everything's really flat. Like it's really straight and true and flat because there's no warping from wood. A metal studs pretty much stays straight. I mean, obviously they could set the wall crooked, and then the building's concrete. Generally, that's pretty straight, because they're shooting all that stuff with lasers and everything. So it was like all the cabinets just fit nice and tight into the corners, and everything
Huh.
was all square. and it was a dream. She doesn't have her ceiling up yet. She's going to do shiplap, so they have furring strips up over the concrete, and they've scraped some of the popcorn. And so we're leaving the crown molding off right now until she can afford to do that, because she wants to do shiplap on the ceiling. I don't know if she's got somebody else doing it or we're going to do it, but she's got some other things she's fixing. She has 2 houses. This is like her vacation house. She has a house in Atlanta, but we're doing a bathroom vanity, a little bar cabinet, and then her kitchen. The kitchen is blue, midnight blue,
Ooh.
navy blue, and I like the color. The cabinets are really pretty. I talked her into some extras like big 30-inch pullouts and stuff, but dark colors. I mean, it's like having a dark floor.
Yeah.
You just kind of see everything, and with the blue and the light, like every fingerprint, the oils on your finger, you can see it. They're scrubbable. I mean, they're easy to clean, but we had several doors and stuff that were damaged in packaging, and we didn't see it until we installed it. So I got to have the warranty replace those. But other than that, carrying it up the stairs kind of sucked, but it's been, I mean, knock on wood, it's been going pretty good.
Nice.
So they're doing it's got a bar, and we're doing all the panels and all that fun stuff. That's it. I finished the shutters. Did we talk about that last week?
We did.
And it was miserable. It was so hot. And we got them all up, but I mean, it was like 7:00 at night. I was like dragging my feet. You can't drink enough. I will say that liquid IV stuff works pretty good. I think it's got the salt and
Did you try the coconut milk or coconut water?
I did try the coconut water. It kind of gave me a stomach ache because I was so hot.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just me. I didn't chug
So you got to
it.
watch out. There's coconut water and there's coconut juice. Some of the coconut juice,
No, this
they
is
put
the
a lot of
coconut
sugar
water.
in. Okay,
No,
good.
this is no sugar added coconut water. It was just coconut water and vitamin C. That's all it was in it. So it just kind of gave me a little bit of stomach ache, but I felt better from the liquid IV, I think.
Yeah.
That you can't chug the liquid IV though, because it's like chugging salt water, and that also kind of make you want to puke. But
I didn't know that.
yeah, if you chug salt water, it'll make you throw up. Anyway,
Well, I knew that.
But we did get the shutters done. They look good. They look really good, and I don't ever want to do it again. I don't ever want to do functional shutters ever again, unless the customer has some kick-in hardware and it's easier to install. Like not over the substrates we went over. I'm terrified of them, to be honest with you. But yeah, so that got done, and then the owner of the company has bought another house. I don't know if anybody remembers in the podcast, but I worked on a house on Hibiscus Drive, which is near the beach.
Did that one finally sell?
It sold. Actually, when it sold, the customer had another house over not too far from there, a condo, and they needed to get rid of it. And so they gave him a good deal on that condo, and then they bought his house. So they kind of like did a switch and obviously paid for the other house. So yeah, and then all my cabinets, that was my first kitchen, flooded, gone. They never called us. We left a flyer on their door to call us, and they never called us. So all those cabinets on the bottom of that house are
done. So
I don't know who replaced them, but it had an espresso island and white cabinets. So it was really pretty.
Me espresso.
Anyway, so on that same street, a few houses down, there's a house that's got water on 2 sides. It's on a corner, and it flooded during the hurricane.
Who would have thought?
And they didn't fix it. It didn't have a lot of water in it. So he bought it, and we're going to gut the bottom, rip the roof off, and put 2 stories on top. So that is going to be a project.
Can you promise me something?
Yes, I'll take pictures.
Well, not only that, but when you're tearing off the entire roof, make a video and please put the Parlin Funkadelic.
Raise the roof?
No. Tear the roof off the sucker. Tear the roof off the sucker.
I never heard that song. So I mean, you're gonna have to do it no matter who buys it, because nobody will insure, if they have a mortgage, nobody will insure that house unless the roof is. The whole bottom will be uninhabited, right? It's just concrete. Everything's up off the ground, like 5 feet, and like the whole deal, all the outlets. So the bottom will just there's a whole house. I mean, it's all one story. So everything's coming out. But
are you going to do metal roof then?
I don't know what roof he's going to do on it. The shingles that they make here are quite strong
Yeah.
because they'll have like a 40-year shingle. It's
Mhm.
very rigid and it'll survive a hurricane, a very strong hurricane.
Oh, okay.
It's all the older ones that are the problem.
Yeah.
After Hurricane Andrew, which was what, in the 94,
91.
96, 91, I was in Panama City for that. You weren't allowed, people had 15-year shingles. They all blew off. So the insurance company said, nope, lobbied 25 years and after, that's it. And now I think it's even more than that. Everything changed. You have to have a nail every 2 inches on the exterior sheathing.
Ooh.
If it's close to the ocean within X amount of miles, it has to have a shear wall. In other words, whichever way the wind would blow, they plywood both sides of the studs in the house all the way down. In China, they've always done that, but they did it like with joinery, and they
Yeah.
would cut a notch down the studs, right, and like run a piece so that it can't shear like
Yes.
this.
Oh,
So
that'd be
a
similar
lot of-
process to blocking, like for like on the foundation. I guess.
Yeah,
Sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, yeah. That's the other thing. Everything has to be bolted, and it's bolted with all thread from the truss, the top plate, down to the foundation. So they run a bolt, and there's like a sleeve nut, and it connects all the way to the bolts in the concrete, all the way up. Doesn't matter how tall it is, all the way up, and then everything gets strapped. Everything's strapped. A million hurricane straps on everything. And even if you remodel here and you expose something, that needs to be strapped.
Now,
Whatever you expose.
let me ask a quick question. As far as logistics go, I know the law now is if you're rebuilding a house, you cannot build anything. If you're within a certain number of miles of the ocean, you cannot rebuild anything on that first floor. You have to raise the whole house up, correct?
No. There's a lot of ins and outs about it. Some things have to do if they have flooded before.
Okay.
Some things have to do with what percentage of the home was damaged,
Okay.
based on what the value of the home was and the cost to repair it. It's all between the insurance companies and the county on whether or not they have to raise it or not.
The reason that I ask is because I think of the physics of the power of a hurricane.
Yeah.
And
The
as
water
you
more
say,
than anything.
they're strapping down everything.
Yeah.
And obviously the flooding is a big issue. But if you have this open area underneath the house that the air from the hurricane can get in.
It's not open. It's not open. There's just nothing in it. There's no livable space in it. It's
I was thinking it almost like if you think of like an F1 car, they build it so low to the ground and the nose is almost touching the ground. Otherwise, you get lift underneath the car as it's going at that speed.
Correct.
And I'm thinking if you have 200 plus mile an hour winds, the lift is going to come in underneath with the air pressure underneath the house and just take that thing right out.
So a couple things. One is, it probably would. But really in a hurricane, when the roof blows off, it isn't because it blew it off. It's because it sucked it off.
Yeah.
Like an airplane wing, right? Because it goes over that gable. It goes over the peak of the roof, creates a low pressure, and it sucks it off. Air could get in there. But no, it would have, hurricane windows, garage door. Like it would all be normally sealed.
Right.
But sometimes they put a little drywall in there.
I was gonna say down in Galveston, a lot of the houses it's not covered. Like, you can see straight through the bottom of it.
Well,
like
then that's
pillars.
a stilt house. That's different. Yeah, but they put. I think it's probably better for the air to be able to pass through than it is for it to be something for it to blow against. So I'm not really sure about that. I know that there is a lot of stilt houses like he's talking about on concrete pilings and wood pilings, and they do quite well in a hurricane, except they're there, but they're up on stilts for flood. As far as what you're saying, new construction, right. If unless you're self-insured, if you're self-insured, then no, you don't have to have, you can build. The county probably is going to have a problem with it because you're not necessarily going to live in that house forever. And they're going to want you to build it up. But after this last thing and garbage in the streets a mile high for as far as you can see, everything's different.
Yeah.
And most new people were building their homes like that anyway. I mean, there's like my friends live in a townhouse. They're all together and all the bottoms are garages. I mean, there was drywall down there, but that's like a minimal, cost to repair. And there is vents in the back of the house so that when the water comes in, it can go back out.
Yeah.
Everybody has them in the bottom. Yeah, that's how they build all the houses on the water. It's all concrete at the bottom, poured cell, and then there's vents in the back of the house, and you can't cover them up. Yeah, it's like a whole thing.
Wild.
So it is. You got to really want to live someplace for it. The thing is like we just had that happen. It could not happen again for another 150 years. Like you never know. But if you live on the water, any hurricane, it comes up some.
Yeah.
It comes up some. So I would feel better if it wasn't on the ground.
Yep.
Yeah. It reminds me of the Robin Williams skit where it's like, you're about to rebuild your beach house for the third time. Why do it? And it's like, we just love the view.
Yeah. There's houses that they're in. It's not here. I don't know where it is, but like they're on the beach. I think it's up north somewhere on the East Coast. And like the mountains falling into the ocean.
Oh, that's California.
Is it California?
Yeah, it's California and up in Oregon and Washington.
It's been happening for a long time. They don't want to leave. And it's like, you're going to have to leave because we're not doing it. They want the county to fix it or the state, and they're not fixing it.
No.
So the house is just going to fall into the ocean.
Yep. So I have a very quick touch up, and then I want to jump into something.
Right on.
So I want to say thank you to you, gentlemen. I brought to you guys last week how would you fix the chessboard? And you guys both said I would put clear epoxy, I would do this, I would do that. So I actually, after I had finished the top half with the wood glue to fill all the cracks and stained all the wood glue, that was done almost flawlessly. I put the paste wax on there, flipped it over, and there was still cracks on the underside. And I was like, now I'm going to listen to my guys. And I taped off the same way I did when I did the wood glue.
Sure.
And I did clear epoxy in all those gaps and filled it all in. And that thing will never come apart on those seams. I can't say anything about any of the other seams, but on those, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. I'm actually going to deliver that one tomorrow, but the paste wax was the perfect touch on top of that. So
awesome. I bet it feels amazing. What kind of epoxy did you use?
Did you use your heat gun and a spatula?
I did actually use a heat gun and a spatula, but I also used the portable heat gun that I had been sent by Wagner because I didn't have a ton to work with as far as like needing a ton of heat or needing to get crazy. So that was a perfect thing. Most of the time that's drastically underpowered, but for that it was the right application. The other question you guys had for me was something else, and I forgot what it was. Oh,
I was saying what kind of epoxy?
Yeah, it was just a tabletop epoxy because I was only pouring like at most a quarter inch, but it was closer. Probably a quarter inch.
I think that's perfect. You want that thickness in it, to fill that gap. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what she said.
Exactly. 'Tis what she proclaimed. I also wanted to say thank you to Jess, and this leads into my nugget later, but I did take your advice for regearing my drill press, and I'll get into that for my nugget, but I want to say thank you for that. But I was cutting mortises and tenons and everything over the past couple of days. I've been doing a lot of joinery for this coffee table, and the adjustments that I made were flawless, and the joinery is coming out perfectly.
That's
between super sharp tools and precision layout. Everything's coming together, and I love when a plan comes together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. So I want to get into some trivia and some other stuff because I promised you guys some good stuff on the whiskey, and we're going to get into that too. So, Jess, where do you want to start today?
So today, this is from a request. We have a wood of the week. Last week we did history. This week we're going to do wood, and this week's wood of the week.
Hold on.
Wow.
Wow. Wood of the week
is cottonwood. Ross requested this. I was just driving and stuck in traffic, and I was like, what am I going to do? So I would have swore that I did it, but I did not. I have not done cottonwood.
I effing hate
Yes,
Cottonwood.
we talked about cottonwood
Mhm.
because you hated. I remember you saying you hated cotton. It's a pretty tree when it's.
I
blooming.
have a neighbor behind me that has two 65-foot tall cottonwood trees that decimate our neighborhood. Like it just started this week and it's already starting to float down, and it floats about through mid to late June. And I literally have to wear um, almost like a respirator when I cut the lawn for the next few weeks
It's full of
because
pollen.
it's just so brutal. It's just sucking into your face. It's almost to the point where my whole lawn gets covered and I could light it on fire and it would quickly go up and burn it all off.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
You should try that.
Yep.
I think I will actually.
So
I've heard people doing that. Yeah.
there's two cottonwoods. There's eastern cottonwood, and then there's what's the other one? Black cottonwood. So we're going to talk mostly about eastern cottonwood. The thing with cottonwood is this, right? So like I don't know, I'd have to look it up, but they have a dried weight. It's called an average dried weight, and they do it cubed. So it would be 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot, like it's a cube at 1 foot, and then they figure it out. Like Ipe is like 70 something pounds, I think, for a 78 pounds, I think, for a cube of Ipe, and we all know it's pretty dense. Oak is also probably 60 pounds, something like that.
Yeah.
This is 28 pounds.
Yeah, it's super light.
Super light, pretty darn soft. I mean, it's not balsa soft, but it's pushing it. 430 on the 430 pounds on the Janka hardness, so it's very, very, very soft.
It looks like poplar too.
It is. It's in the poplar family. Its scientific name is Populus deltoides, right? So there's also, I had a link to it somewhere in here. Black cottonwood.
Those are bigger.
Black cottonwood, it's even softer, 350, and even lighter, 24 pounds for a cubic foot of it. So it's a little lighter, I would say, oddly enough. The wood is, at least, the dried wood. The trees get pretty big. The trunk can be like 5 and 6 foot trunk diameter and 80 to 100 feet tall. And the thing with it is it's like a utility lumber. They use a lot of it because they'll use it like as like parts of plywood, and things like that.
OSB, all kinds of stuff.
But softwood has its place because, for instance, I was thinking about this today when I was putting the cabinets together. The face frames that we use are actually probably rubber wood, right? And they're painted. But the reason for that is because if you go to put a screw in maple, what does it do? Like it'll snap the screw off, it'll split, it can crack. It's very hard to work with in that type of situation. And that's what they use cottonwood for. So interestingly, Native American tribes historically prized cottonwood for ceremonial uses and often crafted dugout canoes from the large trunks. So we were just talking about the 5 to 6 foot wide trunk because of the size and the lightweight properties. There's another tidbit. The massive Fremont cottonwood in Arizona is a famous landmark with some individual trees reaching incredible diameters, making them notable. So it's useful for like people that want to carve. In the case where you need something that's easy to carve and something that is lightweight, cottonwood's your tree, right? And they grow obviously quite easily. They grow pretty fast. They grow really big. So it does have some really good uses. Not good for cabinetry, not good for furniture, too soft, good for plywood maybe. It's good for people that do wood turning if they're going to make something decorative. So it's good for those kind of things. But as far as like making some long-lasting piece of furniture out of it, it's not a good idea.
No.
It's super soft. And it is a pretty tree when it's blooming. I'm sorry, that's a I don't know what you call that, a dichotomy.
A trigger?
It's pretty, but it makes you sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of these slabs are really pretty. Like, like the normal wood, like normal boards I'm looking at. Yeah, you're right. It's kind of poplar-esque. But like, here's one with like a little bit of burl. And it almost looks like once there's a coat on it, like a cypress. Like, like once you bring out some of the darker veins, it actually looks pretty good.
It is kind of in the poplar family. It doesn't have a lot of grain to it. They do make a lot of crates out of it. They make a lot of crates out of it. I found something about that because it's easy to use. It's lightweight, right? So then the crates,
a lot of wine crates.
Yeah, the shipping's cheaper because it's a lightweight wood. It's all these things that you gotta, it does have a use for.
Yeah.
So there
I
you
never
go.
really knew cottonwood was a super useful wood, or like is actually used for stuff.
I'm sure in some areas it probably is more than others. I mean, here everything's pine, but and oak. But,
yeah,
we have boatloads of cottonwood up here.
Well, to cut some down and make a crate out of it,
dude. I would love to cut down my neighbor's cottonwoods. Every year, I'm like, I have a 27-inch chainsaw. I would love to just go over there and take it down.
Oh, real quick on the chainsaw and the sawmill. I meant to see this. So, have you seen the people that make the hand sawmill with a ladder and a chainsaw?
Yeah, the Alaskan sawmill style. Yeah.
Yeah, you just get a ladder and then you put a board on the thing and you can adjust it with all thread and then you just slice right through it. So that is pretty cool.
I will say, initially when I got my 27-inch chainsaw, I got it for exactly that. I was going to mill up some of the ash trees that I had. And first I was like, I'm going to test it on a couple pine logs that I have. And for the pine, it was amazing. I went through the pine pretty quickly and the whole system worked great. I went up against the ash and it took me 3.5 hours to do one log. And it was it fought so hard and it was just not worth it.
Yeah, sore on your forearms. Yeah.
My neighbors were so mad because I was out in our front lawn doing it. And they were like, how long is this going to just be racing this chainsaw?
How was your blade getting dull from cutting the pine?
No, not from the pine, from the ash. It went through the pine like butter. By the time I got to the ash, I had to resharpen the entire blade every time I finished a slab.
Yeah, it's like triple the hardness.
Yeah.
And the grain structure is different, everything.
It sucked.
It's like oak on steroids.
Yeah, I have a chainsaw to be able to do that kind of stuff, but I'm not going to lie. It's so much easier to take it over to my buddy who has a Wood Miser sawmill, and I pay a few extra bucks, and I can do 10, 11 trees in 3 hours. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Okay.
I thought you had a sawmill as well.
I do not own one, no. I have three friends that have one. And so I utilize friendships.
That's a good way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Can have a place for it.
It's like a friend with a boat. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Very cool.
Well, Jess, do you have some trivia?
I do. I got some trivia along these lines.
Awesome. Better get on out that knowledge because it's trivia time.
All right. Also requested was to do a trivia segment on something simple. Domestic hardwoods, right? Because that's what we deal with all the time.
Absolutely.
I think most people like that. But I included Puerto Rico,
Ooh.
Hawaii, and Alaska.
Puerto Rico,
right? Yeah. Puerto Rico, right? Because we got to take care of them. All right. So these are kind of tricky, I think. Okay. These are pretty good questions. Very last minute, down to like 5 minutes before we got on. So
still counts.
Hopefully they're all correct. I didn't have a lot of chance to go through them, but I think that they all seem like they're right. All right. Let Colton started last week. We're going to let Ross start this week because that seems like whoever starts is the lucky charm. Question number 1. Which domestic hardwood species is the hardest according to the Janka hardness scale? Is it sugar maple, black walnut, pecan hickory, or white oak?
Pecan/hickory.
Pecan/hickory is correct. You want to guess the Janka?
1,300.
Higher.
1,600.
A little higher.
1,800.
1820. 1820. And oak's around 12. So yeah, it is quite something there. All right. I was going to say hickory. It's the hardest commonly available domestic hardwood in the U.S. They use it to make like tool handles and flooring and stuff like that. All right. Ready, Colton?
Oh, yeah.
Number 2. Which hardwood is Hawaii's only commercially significant native hardwood species?
I know this one.
Okay. Is it ohia, koa, mango, or kukui?
Koa.
Incorrect.
What?
Oh,
It is.
no.
And this is one that I did check. It is Ohio. Metrosideros polymorpha is widely distributed and is vital ecologically and culturally, although koa is more commercially famous. Ohio remains predominant.
Wow. That was
Ohio?
Ohio. It looks like Ohio, but with an A at the end. Ohio.
Or as
It's
they say in
pretty.
Jamaica, Ohio.
It's pretty if you want to look it up. It's really pretty. I have never
Ohio,
seen it.
how you doing
I've
there?
never heard
Yeah.
of it. I've never seen it. But anyway. All right. Moving on. Ross. Question number 3. What type of hardwood is predominantly found in Puerto Rico and valued for furniture and cabinetry? Is it, you want the multiple choice?
Yes.
Is it red alder, mahogany, black cherry, or aspen?
Let's go with alder.
It is not alder. It is mahogany.
Really?
Switinia mahogany, prized for woodworking, is fine furniture and musical instruments due to its durability and beautiful grain. But it is native. There is a native mahogany to Puerto Rico.
I was unaware of this.
I wonder if it's
Yeah, I
similar to
didn't either.
Honduran mahogany, like a light kind of.
Just a different accent, probably. All right,
Yeah.
moving on.
Less
Question
spicy.
less spicy. Question number 4, Colton. Which hardwood is commonly associated with whiskey barrels due to its leak-proof properties?
White oak.
That is
Quercus
correct.
alba.
Quercus alba features tylosis
Yeah.
in its pores, which naturally make it watertight, ideal for aging whiskey and wine. Now, tylosis, have you ever told us that word before?
I have not.
Did you know it?
I did not.
Tylosis. So it's Tyloses. Tylosis in its pores. All right, moving on. Question number 5, Ross. The state tree of Alaska, known for its resilience in cold climate, is. You know it off the top of your head?
It's got to be either Douglas fir or blue spruce.
It's what they used to make airplanes. Actually, I learned this in aviation school. That way they still use wood in them.
It's not balsa.
No, it's you're close. It's Sitka spruce.
Sitka spruce. There you
Sitka spruce. Yeah, it's very light, but it has a lot of strength to it actually for being so light, and the grain stays really nice and straight, so it's great for airplanes because it doesn't move after. All right, moving on. Colton, which hardwood is commonly used for butcher blocks and bowling alley floors due to its density? Out of these 4 choices, hickory, correct. Sugar maple. Acer saccharum offers exceptional durability and tight grain, perfect for heavy use applications like cutting surfaces. It's way up there on the Janka too. It's like an 1819. Actually, it's 2000 something, I think. All right, moving on. Ross. This domestic hardwood is known for rapid growth and is typically harvested in less than 30 years. Is it, out of these 4, white oak, black walnut, red alder, or hickory?
Black walnut.
Incorrect.
Ah.
You had it on the last one, red alder. Alnus rubra, found primarily in the Pacific Northwest, regenerates quickly, making it a sustainable choice for furniture and cabinetry. Red alder. I'm trying to think if I've ever used it.
I've used alder to make a guitar, but that's
It's pretty
it.
soft, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen some doors made out of red alder. Okay, moving on. Question number 8, Colton. In which region of the United States is black cherry hardwood primarily harvested? Is it A, the Pacific Northwest, B, Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states, C, Southwest, or D, the Great Plains?
A.
Incorrect.
Alpha.
It is the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states. Black cherry, Prunus serotina, predominantly grows in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, New York, known for its premium furniture and cabinetry. All right, this is hard. This is a hard one. All right, moving on. Question number 9. Ross, which hardwood is historically significant to Native American tribes, especially for ceremonial mass and totem poles? It's a good question. Is it A, sugar maple, B, red oak, C, western red cedar, or D, ash?
Western red cedar.
That is correct. Thuja plicata. Sounds like something you'd order at a Mexican restaurant. Has been culturally vital to tribes of the Pacific Northwest, used extensively for its durability, workability, and aromatic properties.
Yeah, either that or like a sushi roll. I can see that.
Yeah. Oh, you get it. So you get salmon on it. You get salmon cooked on a cedar plank.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Question number 10. This hardwood is famously resistant to shock and is traditionally used in baseball bats.
I know this one.
Hickory?
Yeah.
I said
Is
hickory.
it? Well, I haven't given it. Is it elm, white
It's
ash,
all right.
aspen, or red oak out of those four?
Elm?
Incorrect.
Did I get it wrong twice?
White ash baseball bats. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense now.
Fraxinus americana. That is the name of white ash.
So
Offers strength and flexibility.
strangely enough, I toured the Louisville Slugger facility last 2 years ago now, about a year and a half maybe. Either way, I toured and I asked, based on the fact that historically baseball bats were made out of ash, are they seeing an issue sourcing trees because of the Asian ash borer beetle? And they said, normally the answer would be yes. However, in the past 12 to 15 years, 95 to 98% of Major League Baseball players have switched over to maple as their choice for bats. And therefore, they're not using a lot of ash because it was heavier than the maple. So they wanted the extra speed.
So, am I just out of left field with the hickory then? Did I thought I remembered something about hickory bats.
I think it has to do with what, if you listen to the question, the shock, I think it might crack. And I think for some reason ash and maple can handle it.
So hickory's common. I thought hickory was used for like sledgehammers and stuff.
It is for that, but
handles.
it's not as much for, because those have an extra, it's for the handle for those things, but the heads of those tools are taking the brunt of the force.
Got it. Okay.
Whereas if
that's what she said.
Exactly. If the if the bat was made out of hickory, you would feel every vibration going right into your hands.
Right. It could probably, yeah.
So,
all right.
Entiendo.
Well, I think that you should take your lathe and you should turn us 3 baseball bats and you should torture test them. That would be a good video.
Yeah.
Maple, ash, but you can't glue it together. You got to find you some like 16 quarter and turn a little baseball bat and then hit the S and A out of something. It'd be awesome. All right. Sorry. Moving on. This is Ross.
Yep.
This hardwood is what hardwood native to Florida is highly valued for musical instruments, especially guitars? Is it? It's a tricky one. Poplar, live oak, bald cypress, red maple.
It's either the cypress or the maple. I'm going to go with the maple.
It is cypress. That is correct. Bald cypress, Taxidium distichum, grows abundantly in Florida swamps and wetlands, favored for its acoustic resonance and moisture resistance. Yeah, I always like stuff with the resonant stuff. Actually, that was question.
Cypress.
Was that 9?
Cypress. That was 11.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if I missed one or not. Here we go. Last question, Colton. Which domestic hardwood is most associated with traditional shaker furniture due to its easy shaping and attractive color? Out of these 4, yellow birch, red maple, white oak, or cherry?
Cherry.
Correct. Prunus, Ross's favoritus, is cherished for its deep, rich color. Deep, rich color that only intensifies over time, making it a historical favorite for finely crafted furniture.
Do you have
cherry is
one
good for
more
furniture.
question? Because we're tied. This is a tiebreaker.
Oh, we tied? All right.
Yeah.
Tied it up with the cherry. Oh, yeah.
Give me
Of course
a
you
second.
did.
While you're looking at that, I'm looking up this bald cypress.
Here, let me.
What are your thoughts on the bald cypress?
It, for what I'm seeing, it looks like it's got like just a ton of layers. ton of ring. It's not. I'm not super excited about it. Some of it looks like red oak ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know who's using it for guitars, unless it's for acoustic guitars for part of the body for the resonance. But like, I hope they're painting it then, because it's not a real attractive lumber.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yep.
All right, this is going to be a tiebreaker. You guys rush to the answer. Question 13. Which domestic hardwood tree is notable for naturally producing compounds that inhibit the growth of other plants nearby? A phenomenon
Black
known
walnut.
as allelopathy.
Cedar.
That is correct. Black walnut. Black walnut trees produce a chemical
Nailed it.
called juglone, which seeps into the soil around their roots and can significantly stun or even kill other plants. Gardeners often avoid planting sensitive plants near black walnut trees. That's why they always cut them down, because
They are also unbelievably toxic to horses.
Yep.
If horses eat the shell of the
nuts.
walnut.
Yeah. Black walnuts are bad.
Really?
They can't even be.
Oh yeah.
They won't. We used to give our Chevys to a lady that had a stable, and she said, "This is not black walnut, is it?" And I said, "No." She said, "Yeah, we can't even use it in there for that." I said,
Really?
"All right."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is toxic to horses.
Isn't that funny? One of our favorite woods is like, it's kind of a nuisance tree.
Yep.
All right. Good job, Ross.
That was fun. Thank you.
Allelopathy.
That was a good
That's
one.
a good word. Allelopathy. It's a defense mechanism. All right. I am so excited right now. I'm just going to sit here and relax.
All right. Well, let's get after it.
Showtime! The whiskey of the week.
So I told you guys last week that I wanted to dive into a topic a little deeper this week.
Cliffhanger.
I know.
Yes.
And I held it off. I wanted to jump into and dive into the cost of making whiskey, what it actually costs by the time it comes to whatever bottle you have or the shelf.
So can we ask questions during the presentation, or can we ask at the end?
You can ask during the presentation.
You have to raise your
Okay.
hand
All right.
very politely. Jess.
This is even better than I thought. All right, let's
So,
hear it.
Most people, when they think of the cost of whiskey, they go, well, how come bourbon whiskey costs less than Scotch whiskey or Japanese whiskey? Or how come Canadian whiskey is so inexpensive in comparison with, this or that? Why is, the inflation of whiskey so high, and yada, yada? And there is a lot of science that goes into it. And first of all, you have to start with the ingredients list. So typically, if you're looking at Scotch whiskey or Japanese whiskey, it's going to be, for a single malt, it is made of 100% malted barley. If you're doing a blended whiskey from Scotland or Japan, it is going to be a combination of some of those single malts that are 100% malted barley. And then obviously cereal grains, so corn, barley, and rye are the other ones that make it up.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm sorry that maybe this is stupid. What is malted barley?
So
Barley is, but
yes. So
Yeah, you give it a
basically, malting is the process of extracting some of the sugars in the actual grains of the barley.
like toasting it.
Kind of. They soak the external grains before. So let's say fresh grain comes to a distillery, and it's literally picked out of the field, and they've filtered
Dried it.
out.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but they've filtered out some of the seeds from the husk. Okay. So you get this delivery of all these seeds. They have to grind up, they have to put all those seeds through a grinding machine to create a product called grist. And grist is basically the super sugary starches that are trapped inside those barley seeds. And then from there, then they have to soak it, which is the malting process. They soak it for upwards of 2 days, and that process starts to naturally release the sugars that in nature would become pollen. And that process takes anywhere from 2 days of soaking to up to 2 weeks of drying, depending on how you do it. Now, if you're looking just at Scotch whiskey, they typically dry out the barley one of two ways. Either they have a grated floor that it sits on that they heat up with steam or with wood, and then it'll heat the whole thing, and then they turn over the barley every, so on, and dry it out. Or if they don't have access to those items, because let's say it's the Isla region or one of the islands off the coast of Scotland, there's not a lot of trees. And on top of it, it's far too humid to be able to actually use steam. It's just going to make moldy barley. So what they use is peat. It's a decaying moss. You find it in the ground, and it burns as hot and as long as charcoal. So they heat that up, but it leaves that smoky residue. That whole process of getting to that point is the malting process. So here in the States,
to the cost.
Yeah, it all adds up to the cost. So looking at the individual ingredients that go into, let's just focus on American whiskey here, and then it'll kind of give you an idea in the cost breakdown. So typically, American whiskey, let's focus on bourbon, has to be at least 51% corn. Usually it's closer to 65 to 70% corn. That's going to be between $3 to $5 per bushel. Now, a bushel of corn to make an entire barrel's worth of whiskey, you're going to need about 9 bushels. They're about 125 pounds each. Okay. The next one would be a combination of wheat or rye, depending on what grains you want to use in that mash bill. Those cost between $6 to $8 a bushel. Now, those only weigh about 60 pounds per bushel, but you need about 8 of those to be able to make enough of the volume to equal out that ratio. And then barley, now usually they're not using a ton of barley because of the cost, but they put it in for the grist characteristic, those sugars, and that's what reacts with the yeast to be able to make a truly fine whiskey moving forward. 1 bushel of barley costs about $35, and they need 4 of them. So just looking at those ingredients, you need about 1,050 pounds worth of just rough ingredients. It's about $475 by the time you calculate it out, before you've done anything else, before you've added any yeast or added any water. Adding the yeast and the enzymes is about another $50 per batch. Okay. So let's say you start out with 1,050 pounds, and out of that, you're going to get 1 barrel. Okay.
Wow.
So now we get into the cost of, if you look at malted barley or single malts over in Scotland, it's made entirely out of malted barley. So you're looking at $35 a bushel times 1,000. So, I mean, over
How much is a bushel
of barley, malted barley, about $35.
But how much does a bushel weigh?
A bushel of barley is in the neighborhood of 30 pounds.
So 1,000 divided by 30.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it.
So you're going to need, obviously, a boatload of that. And at that higher cost, that's where the cost of, obviously, the whiskey goes up. So then you get into the barrel, okay? A brand new barrel for bourbon whiskey, as I've said before, can only be used one time for the aging of bourbon. After that, they can do whatever they want with it. They just can't age bourbon in there due to the bylaws of what makes a bourbon whiskey a bourbon. A new barrel can cost anywhere from $200 to $500, depending on the demand and the order quantity and availability. So really, there's only 3, maybe 4 main manufacturers of barrels in the United States. You have Jack Daniel's, who makes their own. You have Speyside Cooperage, who also is tied in with Scotland. Therefore, they are shipping barrels back and forth, so they're reaping the benefits there. There's International Stave Company. They do a lot of wine barrels as well. And then there's Black Swan, which is up in Minnesota. Not the biggest.
He's a smaller guy. I saw a thing on him.
Yeah. So they end up doing a lot more of the small kind of craft distilleries. Okay. So let's say ballpark $300 for that barrel. So right now you're at between the $475 you were at for just the ingredients, and then $300.
You're probably around $800 because you said the yeast.
Yeah, so roughly $800. Okay, then you have your labor. It's usually around $290 to $350 per barrel, depending on how much you're paying your head distiller versus assistant distillers, because you have to go through the entire process of, let's say the new grains come in, you got to grind them, you got to malt them. Then you have to ferment everything together. That fermentation takes anywhere from 24 to 72 hours. Then you go into the distillation part of it. And we haven't even talked about the cost of what goes into the utilities. Now, water plays a massive part of this. You need about 1,000 gallons of water for every 10 barrels. So roughly 100 gallons of water. By the time you have the ingredients and the fermentation and everything else, it's about 100 gallons of water per barrel. So by the time you put all that together, you're looking at, let's just keep it at $100. Depending
Isn't it
on where
like
your water.
special water too?
So
It's
it
not
is.
like tap
So
water.
yes, each distillery is pulling up water from their own special source. Most of them tap into an aquifer. So, for instance, MGP Distillery, which is in one of the largest distilleries in North America, they tap into the Lake Erie aquifer. So technically, it's some of the water that's seeped in from Lake Erie all the way through limestone shelves in the earth. You're picking up that mineral content, but they were using on a daily basis, and I don't know what they're using today, but as of 5 years ago, they were using about 200,000 gallons of water a day. Okay.
A day.
Yeah. Jack Daniels is somewhere in that same realm because they're making so much whiskey to cover the entire world. The average distillery is probably using 10 to 30,000 a day gallons. So that adds
Cool.
up. Yep. Okay. So now we have $100 rough dollars on the electricity or the steam to heat up the stills. You have the propane for the mashing and fermenting and distilling and everything, and plus the water. So roughly $100. So we're at about $900 so far. All right. Then you have the aging costs, which this is where the price of it skyrockets. So you're losing that angel share. Now, that angel share, obviously, for those who don't know, a barrel of wood breathes the same way that our skin breathes. And over the course of a year, with the breathing in and out of that oak, what it's doing is pulling the whiskey inside into the walls of the oak and through a layer of charring on the inside of that barrel. And then every time it pushes it back through, that layer of charring acts as a carbon filter, but it also lets the whiskey get in touch with the natural sugars in the wood, which gives it the color and flavor and character and all the things. So that process, you lose about 10% of the whiskey that went into the barrel that first year. And from there, every year after that, you lose roughly 4 to 6%. So let's make it 5% for an even number. So at a 2-year-old whiskey, you put everything into the barrel, you're already down 15% at the end of 2 years. Now, the stuff that's a 2-year-old whiskey is most likely the stuff that's going to be the rot gut, bottom of the liquor shelf kind of product. It comes in a plastic
Good old
handle.
Kentucky Deluxe. Yeah.
That's right. That's the stuff you really don't want to drink. The decent stuff is at least 4 years old. Okay. So 5 year or 5% per year after
25%.
that. Well, it's not a consistent 5%. It does slow down over time because it's 5% of the remaining liquid, not 5% of the total barrel.
Okay.
So
how many liters is a barrel? Like full?
It is 53 gallons when it's full. So if you've lost 15% at year 2, you're down at that point.
Like 8 gallons.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
8 or 9 gallons.
So the angel share evaporation, you're losing for that 6% of 2 years. It's roughly $135. Let's double that to make it a 4-year-old product. So $268 on top of that, right? So the cost calculations. So by the time you have a product that is a 4-year-old bourbon, between your initial costs, your labor, and everything else, you are in the neighborhood of $1,380 for your initial product costs. Every 2 years after that, you're adding $134 of aging loss and warehousing costs. That adds up as well.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
You're roughly looking at, by the time you get to a 4-year-old barrel, and you're not counting any of your overhead costs of anything else, just that one barrel is about $1,500 ballpark. Okay. Now, out of that, you're probably going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 220 bottles. Now, the longer the product ages, the less product you're going to get out of that barrel. And obviously, the more you can charge because it's aged longer and you have to make up that cost. But just on average, you're looking at, that $1,500 aggregated out. That's where a lot of your cost comes from. So by the time you have this crazy amount of ingredients, by the time you're adding up everything in there, you are losing so much money just before you've done anything else, before you've taken your first sip. You've already lost $1,500 on a 4-year-old product. So
how many barrels do they make at a time?
It depends on the distillery. So the larger distilleries, like your Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, Buffalo Trace, they're laying down between ballpark 1,100 to 1,800 barrels per day. Per day.
So where do they store all these?
So that's the fun part of it. They're not laying them down every day. So they're laying down new whiskey, but it takes, from start to finish. Well, no, just in the manufacturing part from raw grain coming into your facility until that product comes off of a still and is now going into a barrel, it's about roughly a week. Okay. So at most you probably have probably 50 times per year. So they're laying down about 50,000 barrels a year. That fills up one of the aging warehouses, right? The aging warehouses are about the size of a football field as far as dimensions on the bottom, and they usually go up about 8 stories. Now, the value, depending on where they're at, and if you look at Buffalo Trace's facility, they not only have aging warehouses on their property, but they have other properties around the Frankfort, Kentucky area that they also have aging product in. They are looking between the value of their products somewhere north of the GDP of Monaco as far as a value, just in those aging warehouses. So if the warehouses are built far enough out so that if one of them catches fire, it won't catch another one on fire. So they're spread out for that reason. But they also rotate barrels. They check on the barrels. They know where every single one of them is at. But they're laying down at a large distillery somewhere in that 30 to 50,000 barrels range. On the other end of the spectrum, you look at your small distilleries, your craft distilleries. They're laying down between 500 to 800 barrels per year. And that's why a small distillery has a lot harder time getting to that value price point, because each barrel that they're laying down has to yield so much more because they have to be able to cover the costs of everything else. If you're laying down in such a large scale, it brings that aggregate cost down to about $400 per barrel for the large guys, but it's about that $1,500 for a craft distillery.
I mean, the marketing cost seems to me like, from what I've seen, they were talking about Nike shoes and the tariffs. Mm-hmm. The marketing costs can be 75% of what it actually costs for the product. Like a Nike shoe, you say they sell for $100 or you buy for $100, it only costs Nike $25 to make it. But then by the time they pay shipping and they pay marketing, it's probably around 50.
Yeah.
No, it's probably around 40. Yeah. 45, 42. And so then they sell it to Foot Locker for 50, right? They make $8. They really only make about $8 after marketing. And then Foot Locker winds up selling it on sale anyway. Yeah. And then they're only making $10. So they got to sell a lot of them. Mm-hmm. A lot, millions of them in order to make any money. Yeah. So as you're looking at on the whiskey side, each barrel yielding, let's say ballpark 200 bottles, depending on how long you aged it. Let's say at that 4-year-old mark. Let me just do the rough math real quick here. 1,500 divided by 220 is 6.8. $6.80, not include the glass.
That is, yeah.
So you're probably $7 or $8.
You're looking at on the ballpark. By the time you have glass, you have the labeling for the glass, you have the shipping. Probably $10 per bottle is their cost, and they'll mark it up then to at minimum 18. maybe 16 if they're doing higher volume and they can get that glass cost down. But even if they're selling it to, they're selling it to the distributor around 14, the distributor is selling it for around 16.75. Then it gets on the shelf at $19.99 or $24.99 to the consumer. So
Gotcha. I mean, the costs. You're putting it very simply. There's a lot of costs. I mean, think about malting it. Just having a multi-million-dollar building and all the insurance and fire and everything they got to worry about just to think. So I wrote down a question while you were talking. Are you done?
Yeah.
With it? Okay. So is it? I didn't want to cut them off in the middle of the story. Is it? Do most places malt their own barley?
No.
Or do they? No,
there
are
malting facilities. A lot of the grain suppliers do the malting for the distilleries because they can do it at a much more even and consistent level. Because if you don't do it right, you ruin an entire batch. And therefore, think of down the line. If you have one of your raw ingredients that comes in that's slightly moldy, everything down the line is going to be totally messed up.
So
would that like a malter? Would that smell like a smoky locker room, or would that kind of smell? Would you smell more of the sweet coming out?
You smell it's like a sweet, musty flavor.
Yeah.
When it's actually in the process of drying, once it's dry, it is a sweet, kind of a cedary, woody tone.
So do they do anything to the corn or the wheat or the rye or any of that other stuff?
So they don't do anything as far as malting to those because they have their own natural sugars, but they are very different sugars. Corn yields the most sugar out of any of those grains. Right. However, the sugar that it puts out burns off very quickly. It makes things almost too sweet. Rye and wheat are very similar in their reactionary properties as well as how they ferment. And they are very, very, very finicky. And so a lot of places don't utilize those as much because they are so tough to work with. Rye is one of those that if you don't know what you're doing, it can taste terrible very quickly.
Right.
So
like that Whistle Pig 28 or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
How do they control, like, for instance, grapes, like, depending on the weather and the soil and the moon, it will make the grapes taste different dramatically. How do they control that barley? Like a company like, for instance, Old Elk
blending,
or Jack Daniels or whatever, they consistently have the same barley with the same flavor year after year after year.
It is very grains are much more consistent than fruits are.
Okay.
Especially grapes. When it comes to where they get it from, they source from certain farmers within the area. They typically know the exact field it's coming from. They tell them to rotate but Colton, to your point, they do blend it together. They'll get grain from, 30 different farmers and they'll test each batch to make sure it's all good before they combine anything. But once they got that quality check, they'll combine it and make a homogeneous flavor of all these different, fields of corn.
Got it.
So it's a consistent flavor all the way through. One of the interesting things, strangely enough, years ago, we're talking like 2011 or 12, there was that massive volcano explosion in Iceland or Greenland.
Yep.
All of a sudden there was this volcanic ash that flew all the way across the North Atlantic and landed all over the fields in Scotland and Ireland and in northern Europe. And there was issues then because you couldn't fly through it because if it got into the props of the engine or onto the props of the plane or sucked into the engine, it would literally turn into like ceramic inside and just solidify, and planes would have just gone down.
I was supposed to go to Germany.
Yeah.
I was supposed to go to Germany then, and I was going to fly standby with a girlfriend. Her dad was a pilot, and we ended up not getting to go because of that volcano.
Yeah.
Those big volcanoes changed the sunsets in the whole world for years.
Mm-hmm. Now, the one thing that I wanted to try, and it should be strangely enough about now, or in the last year or two, by the time all of that volcanic ash came and settled in all those fields, did it make for a more bountiful or sweeter crop? Because volcanic ash has so much flavor profile to it. Did it change the consistency of the barley that then went in, or the cereal grains that then went into making Scotch whiskey or Irish whiskey? And by the time they made it, and now they've aged it at their minimum 8 to 10 years, by the time that's done, you're looking at sometime in the last 3 to 4 years, that product would have come out. And is that product noticeably better than product you would have had a few years prior? Don't know.
You'd have to have 2 bottles.
Yeah.
You'd have to have. So, what was I going to ask you? Oh, maybe you've told me this. I'm sure you have. So they brew the whiskey in a still and with the mash, whatever it is that they're making. And at that point, there's the what is it? The tops or whatever. There's like the acetone and all.
Yes, there's the heads, the hearts, and the tails.
The heads, hearts, and tails, right? So there's like the middle part's what part you want,
yes,
right?
Yes, you want the hearts.
Got like, it's got the bad stuff in it. And so that's what they put. But at that point, isn't it like 90% alcohol?
They usually make that cut around 80 to 85% for the heads. So anything above 80 to 85% alcohol, that would be your heads. That stuff is typically too high octane. If you were distilling crude oil, that would be the stuff that would become your jet fuel.
Gotcha.
Now,
kerosene. Yep.
Yes. Typically what they end up doing is they cut those heads and they send all that product that they've siphoned off. They put it back into the batch and let it re-siphon, if you will.
Okay.
And then the tails, it's anything usually below 30% alcohol by volume.
So it's high. It's higher than, because most things are around 40% as far as whiskeys, 40, 50%.
Yep.
So at that point, are they putting water in it, or they're going to go to age it like that and then they add the water?
The water does not go in until you are very close to bottling. After everything has come out of the barrels, let's say you have 1,000 barrels that you've laid down over the course of however many years, or even in one batch. You laid them all down on the same day or over the course of a week. They spread them out between different warehouses so that, God forbid, a warehouse burns down, you don't lose an entire year's worth of stock. You're losing multiple years, just a little bit of those years, because you spread it out amongst other facilities. But let's say they put them all together, depending on where those barrels sat in each of those aging warehouses, what floor they were on, how much air passed through them over time, what was the sun like on that side or not.
Got it.
You
if
could
the building's
have
made out of wood or metal.
Yeah, exactly. So you could have, out of 1,000, you could have 50 barrels that are now, because they all go in around 120 proof. It's usually within 1 or 2% of that. So let's say 120. So you could have 50 barrels that have lost a bunch of alcohol and are now 105 proof. You could have 100 of them that are now up near 140 proof, and then everything in between. If you just batch all those together, your alcohol proof is all over the board. So that's when they add the water to it to bring it down to that consistent alcohol level before they end up bottling it.
Got it.
So,
all right. So the alcohol level does change as it's in the barrels.
Absolutely. Now it changes depending on where that aging facility is, how much air, like how porous are things. For instance, in Kentucky or Southern Indiana, you're losing roughly that 5% per year due to the angel share. If you're over in Scotland, it's about 2%. But in Colorado, where Old Elk was, that actually was somewhere in the neighborhood of 10% in the wintertime and 16% in the summer, because it's a higher altitude, it's a drier climate, much more arid, much less humidity overall. And so you have a lot more swings in temperature. You could have one day that you wake up and it's 34 degrees, and then it goes up to 75 during the day and back down to 38 at night. A whiskey barrel stops aging when it gets to 40 degrees Fahrenheit and below. But anything above that is just gravy. So
and they can't heat it. Yeah.
Nope. So, yeah.
So my last question is, it seems like I guess that's why they bash it. Like everything would make a difference in the flavor. Like, what about the tree? What if the oak tree grew, next to some other kind of tree and it has different minerals and stuff in the
Yeah.
wood? Like all
So
that's going to make a difference.
so usually what they do when they have the cooperage, they'll get the raw lumber. So they get these logs coming in, they cut them into the length that they need to, and cut them into basically body blanks for each of the staves that will then make up the walls of the barrel. And then they stack them, they intermingle them, but they stack them and they all sit outside, stacked up in the elements for at least a year before they ever get cut into staves to then make a barrel.
So they don't dry them.
They do dry them outside. They air dry them. Yeah.
Huh.
But that way they have a more homogeneous tone amongst all of them.
Got it.
And then on top of it, by the time they cut them down, each stave is slightly different in size. And in all honesty, they just throw a pile together, and the guys who are the actual coopers putting together the barrels, they will eyeball everything and just grab stuff randomly out of a stack.
I watched them do it. It blows my mind.
Yeah, if anybody who's listening to this would like a mind-blowing kind of I don't know how they do it kind of thing, look up on YouTube cooperage and barrel making, because the way these guys do it, there are no joints, there are no nails, there's no glue. It is all pressure fit, and they literally just eyeball it, and they can build a barrel from literally nothing. Within 2.5 minutes, they have a fully built barrel sitting ready to go.
When they got that thing where they're swinging the hammer around that metal thing and they go around it and they get the top in. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I think I saw the one on that smaller one. He uses he does have some machinery that like a computer controlled, like CNC type like 2 or 3 axis thing that helps cut some of that stuff, so it's perfect. And they fit together pretty good. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So that is your whiskey of the week knowledge, and I'm sorry I had to skip last week, but I hope I made up for it today.
No, that was amazing.
So,
yeah, I mean the costs that's a very low ballpark, because everything costs so much money. Everything costs so much money. I just can't imagine all the people and the machinery and all that other stuff. You're talking hundreds of millions of dollars to make these barrels, and they're hoping they're going to make $5 or $10 on a bottle. That's pretty much all it boils down to at the end of it.
So next time you're taking a drink of a glass of whiskey, savor it.
So why is like, what's that one, the Louis the 14th, whatever, it costs like $1,500? Why is, aside from the bottle?
So that I was about to say, a lot of that is actually marketing. Now that is a cognac, which is a grape-based product made in the same style as a brandy, but made in the cognac region of France. So made in the same idea, the same way you'd make a whiskey, but made as a grape base instead of a grain base. Now, the value of the whiskey that is inside that glass, that is somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30-year-old cognac, that is probably $350. And the Lalique Crystal decanter that it comes in, the value of that is about $900. So between those two items and markup, there's your $1,500.
Gotcha. Well, I don't even that. It was $1,500 years ago. I'm sure it's more than that now. But yeah, I saw a guy buy 3 once. They had 3. He bought all 3.
It's a fun flex, but I can recommend probably 30 different cognacs that are much better than Louis Trey.
I'm sure.
So,
it's just so neat. I like stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's got to be good with a cigar.
And then,
it is.
Yeah. Pappy's is pretty much where it's at price wise because of the whole Pappy Gate attention on it.
Correct. Yeah. So that's all consumer demand and marketing driven, but it's almost not marketing. Like Sazerac as a company has really pulled back on not only their marketing, but also on their sales force. They've cut ties with sales force or sales groups and distributors that they had for 30, 40, 50 years. And they said, we don't need these high priced guys. Our stuff sells itself. So they've now gone through beer distributors who are much more local, and they have a much lower commission rate. And Sazerac is just printing money right now. So,
man,
yeah,
my buddy's a beer salesman.
Yeah,
Doesn't seem like a bad job.
That's a good job to get in, man.
it can be. Yep.
My sister's husband he's been in that distributorship stuff, and he does quite well. They all do. People are going to buy most of it anyway. That's why I don't like Bud Light. Like if you sell for Bud Light, like you're going to sell.
Yeah. The hard part is with beer, especially, you have to worry much more about freshness and turnover of product more so than on the spirit side.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah.
Well, thanks, Ross. That was amazing.
Yeah. Happy to help.
Amazing.
Let's jump into some Snuggets. All right. I was talking for a while. Do you guys want to go, or do you want me to kick it off?
I got something.
I got a nugget.
Do it.
No, you go ahead, Jess.
It's pretty simple, really, and I see it a lot. So don't buy one of these at one of the big box stores, but buy yourself a laser. Buy yourself a good laser. Like on Amazon and some other woodworking sites, you can get, like if you go and get something comparable at, let's say, Home Depot, it's going to cost you $600, $800, $900 for a good laser, for one that shoots vertically, horizontally, and like does double lines, and also one you can lock and shine. So like if you're doing a staircase and you want to shoot for like the stringer or the banister or whatever where that's going to go, and it's got like a hanging prism in it, so it auto levels, and it's square within whatever it says, for about $200. And you can get you a little camera tripod if you want, or if you need to go higher than that, you get a bigger tripod. Man, it just changes everything. You can shoot for doing crown molding. You can shoot around the room and see where you're going to have problems. You can see walls out of level. If you're doing tile, if you're doing anything, it is, and it's so simple. You just set it there, and it's a perfect line, absolutely perfect line, because it's hanging using gravity to do it. And then, I just use it mostly to make some little tick marks here and there, and I'll pop a line or whatever the case might be. But it's just awesome. It's just awesome. So, and it's something to invest in for sure.
I can add an addendum to that. If you are not able to drop, a boatload on a higher end laser, there are some ones from Bosch that you can get that are between $75 to $140 that, for what they are and the price that they are really, really good lasers. You can lock them. You can do all kinds of stuff. I have one that was about $110, but they go on sale around Father's Day and Christmas. So if you need a laser, coming up in the next few weeks is a great time to do it.
I wanted that Bosch one. They had it because we were doing a job and it was really far and it was kind of bright. So I needed an ultra bright laser. And we had a little Bosch. It was like the $80 one. Yeah. And it just didn't cut it. I couldn't see it. And I'm sure it's level and all that. So I went and I saw like the one that I wanted was like, $600. And then they had something comparable on Amazon for $210 is what we just bought it for. Okay. And it came with a case and a charger and batteries and two different kinds of small tripods, and a tripod that attaches it to a metal stud, and one attaches to drywall. And it has saved my life so many times. So just look around. It's definitely worth having if you do any kind of installation.
I have that Bosch one, which this one must be the upper one of it. I don't know how much it costs. I actually kept it. It was Rick's at one point, but I used it to level my cabinets.
Yeah, right? It's amazing.
Like I just came through. I drew the line where the line, like on all the walls, and then I nailed the board up, and then hung like at the very base of that line, and rested the cabinet on top of that board. I was able to hang the cabinets myself, and I was really thankful I had his laser. So
awesome. Yeah. So my nugget, and this is hearkening back to what I talked about earlier, but I took Jess's advice, and because I had blown 3 drill press motors from not readjusting the gear ratios on it, I wanted to look up, because I was going to be doing a lot of mortise cutting on white oak, and I know I was going to blow out a motor if I kept doing it the same way. So I just quickly Googled gear ratios for a drill press on hardwood, and
300?
500.
500, yeah.
But KM Tools, so Katz Moses, actually has a drill press index that you can either order or take a screenshot of, and it breaks down based on the size of your bit and the size, and whether you're doing softwoods or hardwoods, what gearing you need to have it at, as far as how much torque you need to have and what kind of power. So it is exponentially worth taking a look at the KM Tools setup. I am more than likely going to order one and put it on my wall behind my drill presses so that I no longer blow out any of the motors. But I cut today 32 mortises, and it cut through like butter. Not a question, not a peep out of the motor.
A Forstner or
a Forstner bit? Yep.
Okay.
It was a 7/8 inch Forstner bit.
Okay.
And it cut like a dream. So.
Yeah.
Nice. I need to print one of those out too.
I've always been lucky because on the inside of my lid is the drill press diagram, like Grizzly puts it inside, so it tells you which ones to put it on for what RPMs.
So the one that I have, mine is a shop box, which is also made by Grizzly, and they have how to adjust it for each gear ratio. So it's like if you need to be at 600 or 250 or this and that, this is how you gear it. But it doesn't tell you how that corresponds to your drill press or your drill bit, and or hardwood versus softwood and anything else. So
I gotcha.
Right.
I've always kept it slow.
My drill press is a Sears Craftsman. I don't think it has any of the stickers left on it.
Yeah. The first time, because I had never used a drill press, we had one in my old shop.
Yeah.
And I went to do a Forstner bit and for a European hinge, and I'm like, what is going on here? Like it was going all over the place, and it was, it's because it was turned way up. And I Googled it at that time. That was many years ago. And it's like the bigger the bit, the slower the speed. Just kind of like a router would be.
Yeah.
And because you need more torque and it to go slower.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it is. It's a big difference. It cuts. The Forsters cut so good with a drill press on slop.
Oh God,
it's just like it's what it's made for. Yeah.
So thank you to Jess, for giving me that heads up.
I know that when you drill in metal, if you got it up too high, it gets hot too fast.
Yeah.
You want it to actually kind of go. It's like almost stupid slow with a drill bit and oil, and it will cut through metal really nice. If you're going really fast, it gets real hot, and then it doesn't want to drill.
Yep.
So.
It's funny. Me and my dad were working on a project when I saw him last, and we had to drill through a little bit of metal. And he's like, "No, you're doing it wrong." And he tried to do like the real slow way. But I was like, "Dad, these bits are meant for high speed." And I just like, after he spends like 10 minutes on one hole, I take it, one hole, done. Like, nice. He was like, "Oh, I guess you're right."
Yeah, there's a balance on depending on the drill bit. It totally
depends what metal you got.
It also makes the drill bit last longer. So another little tidbit, compressor oil. You know, you can buy a little jar of it at the thing. Is a great drill oil. The synthetic stuff. I had a drill bit last for 1 million pieces of metal because I always use that.
That's quite a few.
I actually got a new Forstner bit set because I kept having Jess give me so much crap on the Ryobi ones, even though I could sharpen those every time.
The ones from Harbor Freight are awesome.
So I actually had gone to Harbor Freight recently, and they had a whole set of the Hercules ones.
That's what I bought. Yeah.
And mine are black instead of blue, but they're awesome.
Yeah, they're really good bits, and you can sharpen them a little bit. So.
Yeah. Cuts like
I still have that awesome scar on my thumb from that Forstner bit a while back. It's funny. Crystal was really pushing me to get a jig when I was using it for the cabinet doors.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I used the Craig thing on cabinet doors, the little plastic one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so I got a nugget.
Okay.
So we did this today, and it was a good reminder. Like whenever, especially you're dealing with finishes, especially with highly reactive finishes like lacquer or car paint in this example. Wash your hands a lot. Like we washed our hands between every step. Okay. And try not to get sweat or any sort of residue from anything else onto your piece that is going to have an awesome finish. So,
Did you use
trying to prevent fish
latex gloves the whole time?
No, we never had gloves. Gloves might have been a good idea.
Yeah, you can just keep changing.
Gloves would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gloves would be a good idea too. But
Hair
we just
gloves
used
are hard.
non-dish soap and washed a lot.
Yeah.
Hair gloves are hard because you're sweaty. You know how hard it is to put an unpowdered glove on when you're sweaty? Like you can't get the dang thing on. But gloves are good.
Well, gentlemen, we are north of 2 hours in this episode.
Tonight.
I know, but it was a good one. So I feel like that is a great spot for us to send it on. Is there anything else you want to cover?
No.
That's it.
Good.
All right, then to all the listeners out there, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button wherever you're listening to this podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in this week. We hope you enjoyed every second of this episode. If you didn't, please send all your complaints to our socks instead of underwear wearing legal representation of Ketis, Smith, Frashanti, and Flea Legal Partners in Aid, where their last attempt to persuade a witness went something like, what I got, get it in, put it in you. What I got, you got to get it, put it in you. What I got, you got to get it, put it in you. Reeling with the feeling, don't stop, continue. They were clearly charged with badgering the witness in contempt of court, but whatever. So, for Jess, Colton, and Ross, this has been the Beat Around the Bench podcast, and we will catch you all next time.
See ya.